Welcome to these series of videos. I'm producing the first one I'm going to produce is on using an Alexa hosted skill using Alexa presentation language to display on an Echo screen using Python. I had real problems trying to find any information on this on Python. My Alexa's going to go off while we give this talk as well. Okay, so really there are two ways you can display on the screen. This confused me for a long time. You can use APL, which is what we're going to do, or you can use the display directive and templates, which were around for some time. These are explained in this link, and I'll make this Word document available to everybody. If APL is new to you, then you can take a look at the blog above or the webinar at this webinar here. There was also one by Cammy Williams, but I can't find it now. Cammy Williams, unfortunately, moved on to Facebook, so I don't know whether they've removed the video. Okay, so there are three ways we can create an Alexa skill. We can use an Alexa hosted skill. That's probably the easiest way now. You don't need an account and you can just get started. The traditional way, using AWS Lambda and a development console, or using a development environment and the Alexa Skills Kit command line interpreter. I've actually got another document which tells you how to do it using the Lambda and the developer console, so you can look that up as well. But either way, if you're going to do it one of the other ways than this one we're doing here, the code will all be the same. I found some great stuff using Nodejs, and I'll provide you for the link for that. Stuart Pocklington from on medium.com produced a great one, which is where I got a lot of this and modified it for Python. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go. What we're going to do is we're going to show you a way to display items on your screen. I don't know if I've got an example down here. And there is an example. So we can see items on a screen rather than just using a voice interface. The real problem that I had was that some of the examples were so complicated and so long, and I'll show you that halfway through. So we're going to use an Alexa hosted skill, so we'll need to go to the Alexa developer console. To get there, you can sign in, and I always find this a difficult link to go through. Go to the developer console, and then you can go to the Alexa Skills Kit, which brings you to the same page I had before. As you can see here, I've actually created quite a lot of skills, and I've been messing around with APL down here as well. So we'll start by, I'll close that one so I'm not confused, by creating a skill. Let's enter our skill name. Well, we're going to talk about APL, so I'm going to call it Apple Tutorial. Let's call it Apple Tutorial. Default language, I'm going to use English UK. And we're going to choose custom model. We're going to do Alexa hosted Python skills. And we can click create skills. Just turn my Alexa off so she doesn't keep interfering. Now we want one of these templates. We'll just use the Hello World template. If we look at the SourceBot Skillet template, which does have templates for the Alexa presentation language, you can see, actually let's just try that anyway. And we can see how complicated the actual skills are. Once that's doing that, I'll go back and I'll create another one that we'll use. So I'll go back into Developer Console. Alexa Skills Kits, and of course I won't be able to call that Apple anymore, will I? So we'll create a skill. This is the one we've just created, as you can see. So we'll call this Apple Introduction. English language, and we'll get that. Oh, don't forget Python. Create the skill. This time we'll use the Hello World skill. We'll modify that. And that's creating. If we go back to the skill that we've just created using the source bus, we go to build. We can look at the display, and here it will give you an example of what the APL will look like for this display. So we create a template. Oh, okay, we can use any of these templates, but even if I choose a simple template, and I'll look at these templates in a minute, you can see that if we start looking at the Alexa presentation language for it, there are screeds and screeds and screeds of it. So all I really wanted was something dead simple and to find out how it would be displayed in our code. We use it in our code. And if you look at the document, all you ever see is you just see sort of this bit mentioned. They don't mention, well, sometimes they mention this. And they'll mention all this in the documentation, but they still don't tell you how on earth do you combine all this with your response. So that was what I wanted to do. So I'll just kill this one a minute then. That was the tutorial. We'll navigate away from that. And we'll go back to this template, which is the second one I produced, Apple Introduction with the Hello World interaction model. Just look at the intents. Just to show you that all we've got is our cancel, our help, our stop, and our Hello World intent. So this is where the user says, hello, how are you, and so on. Okay. So the next thing we want to do really is to, we'll just take a look at the JSON code that's been produced. And this is what I've just gone through here, talking about the source bus skills. Let's take a look at the JSON code that's been generated. Sorry. So we can go down at the JSON editor here, and this is where we have got all of our intents kept, our invocation name and our intents and our hello world intent. So if we want to add any new intents, we can add them there, or we can do it via the build tag. So as you can see, this is fairly simple. We've not got many intents there. Okay, now our program is going to use the Alexa presentation language. So we want to look at the interfaces and switch the Alexa presentation language on. So we'll go down to interfaces here. I'll just kill all these. And if we look down here, we'll see that there's this display interface here, which was the original one, which we want to leave off. And we've got down here, this is the Alexa presentation that we're going to use. allows skills developer multimodal skills for show the spot and Fire TV. So that's what we want. We'll turn that on, and as you can see, we've got the hub round, the hub landscape, full TV screen. But the landscape small is switched off, so we'll include that in our list of items. I presume at some point Alexa, Amazon will stop using that device. So we'll go back, we'll save the interfaces, don't forget to do that, and we'll build the model just in case. Whilst the model is building, let's see what we do next. So we've included our hub landscape, and now we'll look at the Python code. So because we've got an Alexa hosted skill, we can access the code from the developer console page. So we'll have a look at that now. While that's still building, we can look at the code. Had we not used Alexa hosted skill, we would have to gone into the Lambda in the AWS console and looked at the Lambda here. Or we would have had to build it in our ASK CLI. So here's our code, and this is where our skill handlers, the code is for our skill handlers. If you want to add some more handlers, you add them all at the bottom down here. So we add, we'll take a look at our help intent handler. That's here. The help intent handler is here, and it's got these two items to it. One is the can handler, which returns a Boolean saying, well, if it's a Amazon.help intent, then we can do it. And this is the code for it itself. You can say hello to me, help me help. So when the user says help, then this code is done. Same is true for the hello world. Here's our hello world intent handler. Got this can handle that says, yes, it's the hello world intent that we've got that invoked it. And here's the output saying hello world. I'll just change this to, we'll call it Apple World because it'll be easier rather than saying APL. So we'll save that for now. We'll deploy it in a minute when every time you make a change, you need to deploy your code. So this is the skill we've got here. So the entry point's right at the bottom of it. Skill builder builds up all of the intents for us, the handlers, and we've just briefly gone through this as well. So if you change your code, you must deploy it. So this is where we're going to add our APL code. If you did, before we modify it, if you didn't do so, we can check our skill work. So we're going to do that, shall we? Over here, we can go back into the test. You need to turn the development on, and then you can say open Apple introduction. Don't know why she didn't say that, but she'd come back. Maybe something else has grabbed it. Okay, so we can say hello. Oh, she got there in the end. We can say hello. And at the moment it says hello world because in the code we didn't deploy it. Or we can say help.
can say hello to me. How can I help?
I think the recording software's capturing all the sounds. You get the idea there. Okay, so we know our program works, and the program works by sending JSON code, text code back and forwards between our Alexa device and our code. So it sends requests and we get responses back. So if we go back and have another look at that again, let's just stop this.
Goodbye.
Run it again. Introduction.
Hello world.
And we can see here that this is the code that is sent to our device. And in it, you'll see that we've got this Alexa presentation APL in supported interfaces, device, system, context. So we'll look for this supported interfaces in our code to see whether our device has a display or not. And at the moment, every time we use the Alexa Developer Console, we have a display. You can change the display, but every time you do that, everything gets reset and you have to start again. So try that again. And with the
Welcome.
up, we get that displayed. I'll stop that for now.
Goodbye.
So what we need to do now then is we can see our response here as well. So what we need to do now is to modify our code to send for the APL. Now, you have to check in your code for if the device has a screen or not. You can't send code to a device without a screen. You'll get error messages. You can also find out what sort of device you've got, whether it's a spot or a show or a TV or whatever, by looking at the viewport profile. I'm not going to go into that here, but there's some examples. Once you get familiar with the Alexa presentation language code, you'll see examples of this and how you can modify the code to be shown best on your device. Now, I was really confused as to where all this APL code goes. In fact, we haven't seen much yet, anyway, apart from that long, complicated one. Well, it goes in the directives part in your JSON response. We saw the response. I'll show you the response again. This is the JSON response here. This is just a simple response. And that's where we have to put our code. So we have to add it into this response bit here, where the output speech and the type of the output speech is. We will add our code for our device. And the way you do that is you have a directive that's called an Alexa Presentation APL Render Document Directive. And you can search for this, and there's examples on the internet about how it displays. This is the full response that we're going to work our way to get. So this is everything our program is going to send back. As you've seen, we've already sent this bit back. We didn't add a reprompt, but that's easily added. And then after that, what we want to do is add the directives in here. And here's the Alexa Presentation APL Render document that we're going to send back. If you send one of those, you have to send a token and a document. And all you ever see really is when the Amazon or Alexa guys talk about the APL code, they just talk about this bit here and don't tell you where it goes. You can also add some data sources as well, but that's more than I wanted to go. And then, of course, you've got should end session device. Now the render document directive is defined here, and we need to add this to our code. So render document directive must have a type, a token, and a document. So this is about the simplest one I could get. Simple type and the text that's displayed. So now we need to know how to add this to our code. So what we want to do is we're going to create a new file, and we're going to use that code, and we're going to paste it as a hello JSON file. So let me just copy this code. We'll go back to our code here. We're going to create a file, and we're going to call it hello.json. There's that hello.json, and we'll paste all that code in. Yeah, just checking everything matches up. Okay, so we can save that. Now we're going to add this code to our Lambda function. So that's what I've just done. So remember, we must only send our display information to a device with a display, so we have to check for that. So we're now going to add some more code. The code that actually does that is this piece of code. Oh no. Oh, I think I've got some different code, but we'll do it this way anyway. So the code to do this is available from the ASD Core utils library. So we need to import that. So we'll add this to our code. So along here at the top, we'll add that to our code. So that's what our code should look like at the start. I'm going to use this later on. Now to read that JSON file that we've created, we need to load it using a load APL document. So we'll add that to our code. That needs to import from some JSON files as well. So we'll just add this to the top of our code. I'll just put it after the response there. But before all this information, I'll save that before I forget. And in the code here, we've just got it. I'll most probably put it in a slightly different piece of code. Okay, so I hesitated a bit there because I think in my example I've still got some old code. So we'll carry on. Now we need to add we use the add directive command to add the render document directive. That's some more code that's provided for us. So we just want to add this at the top of our code as well. So we'll just put this in there. Oh, didn't copy it. That's better. And save that. Okay, well, we'll carry on and we'll see how it goes. So this is what the top of our code should look like. And now what we're going to do in our hello intent code, we're going to replace the return code after the hello world so that it checks for a display and adds the directive. So this piece of code here, we're going to replace the return code after the hello world in the hello intent. So we'll go back to our code, find our hello intent. There's our hello world intent, and replace the return code with this. Get our tabs right. And what this does is this uses this get supported interfaces code. And if it's not none, then we've got an interface. So we can return this. Don't know what it does if it doesn't do that. Oh, sorry, there's more code. Haha. Just checking that. We'll add the rest of this code. That's better. No doubt we'll have to get our tabs correct. That might be interesting to see what happens if we get an error. Okay, so let's quick look at this code. If the supported interface is not none, it's true, we've got one. We can then get our speak output. Now it says Apple World. We've now got an ask, a reprompt, so that will keep the session open. And here we add our directive. And the directive we add is the render document directive, which will be added by that code that we've included above. Here's our token we said we must have, and here's our document. The document takes this load APL document, the hello JSON, which is up here, and adds that to it. If it isn't, or if it doesn't have a screen, then lost code. If it doesn't have a screen, the output is you don't have a screen. Buy an Alexa device with a screen is the response. It's the reprompt. Okay, so let's just one check. I've got all the code here. So now we can deploy our code and save and deploy our code. That will take a few seconds, so I'll stop the video for a bit. I think I got deployed successful quite quickly there. Yeah, okay. So we'll go to the test. Still got our development up here, so we can say open Apple introduction. If we say hello, we don't get any errors, that's good news. Oh, we get hello world, we didn't get hello Apple world. Oh, hello Apple world was actually said. So let's just check that code again. So in the hello world intent handler, the spoken output was hello Apple world. The hello JSON included this same hello world. So that was right. If we go back to the build again, we'll just have a look at the APL that was generated. So I use some slightly different text in the document, in the example of it, handout. We'll just go back here a minute. I forgot why we went here now, never mind. Let's just go back to the test and we'll just look at the APL that was generated. Let's see what it's like while we do that on the small hub. So type hello this time. You still get hello Apple world spoken. And this time on the small hub, it doesn't look particularly good. So it's good that you can test it out here. Let's have a look at the...
Hello Apple world.
Oh, you got that in the end. Let's have a look at the code that was generated. And here we can see our... We could see... Are these over? No. Our directives, our presentation, our document, type APL, so our Alexa presentation language with its token, with its document, and our text, type of text. So the typing is text, and the text itself is hello world, or hello Apple, hello world. Okay, so if you get any errors, you can also look at the CloudWatch logs here by looking at the CloudWatch. If we go back to build here, one of these has got the CloudWatch logs. Yeah, so down here we can look at the CloudWatch logs. So if we click this one, takes us to all of our logs. These were the couple of times I've run the program. We look at one of these logs, we can see starts and reports. Nowhere here have I put out any messages, but you can add messages to your Python code by using logger.info. I don't think there are any examples. It was included here in this code, but I don't think there's any messages still. Okay, so that's about it then. There's some example error messages there that I've generated. We briefly looked at the display templates before. There are some standard templates you can use, and in order, if you hover over them, you'll get some information about them. But they provide you with a prominent message, scrollable messages, text with a hint, text with an image, limited text, and so on. So depending on what you want displayed, how you want your Alexa displayed, you can choose one of those, and you can choose them from the example that I started out with. Well, okay, that's it. I think everything else will be in this document. If you want any help, let's put something on the YouTube channel. And that's it. Thank you for watching.